Alright, in my last video, I showed you a little bit of behind the scenes from Swifty's patch 5.2 video. Some people wanted to see a more in-depth tutorial on how I did the war room. I'm going to show you how to do tracking in Adobe CS6. So if you have Adobe CS6, you can do this. And I'm going to set you up with some of the project files. Check the description for a link. So this room is in Stormwind, and I use Fraps to capture this. It's definitely not the smoothest shot, but whatever, because this shot is going to track really well. So here's what we're going to do. Open up Adobe After Effects. I drag the footage into Adobe After Effects. And the next thing I do is make a new composition, and I can click on this little square icon to make a new composition. These are what the composition settings look like. I'm going to switch this to 60 frames per second because I captured this video at 60 frames per second, so I want them to match. And here I got to set the duration for this composition. I drag the video down to the timeline, and I realize that the composition duration is too short, so I need to increase it to 4 minutes. I'm just showing you exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking for where I want to start and end this shot. Alright, so I think I found the beginning, and I want to split the layer, so I go to Edit, and I select Split Layer. Basically all I'm doing is I'm shortening this clip. The clip is too long, so I want to shorten it. Okay, now I want to shorten the duration of the composition, so from the beginning to the end is about 25 seconds. So if I go to Composition Settings again, it's going to shorten the entire timeline. I'm just going through the entire process of how I arrange this video. The video doesn't fit just right. You'll notice that there are black bars on the right and left hand side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the video fit the preview window. I select the video layer, I right click, under Transform, I select Fit to Comp, and it stretches it out to fit the preview window. The next thing I want to do is export this to an image sequence. Image sequences also work well for Adobe CS6 camera tracking because they're pretty much already rendered. I really highly recommend you do this step so you don't run into any problems, especially when you resize or you stretch the video out like I just did. I go to Add to Render Queue, I select JPEG. The JPEG quality doesn't have to be so high. That's going to work well. I'm going to save this image sequence into this new folder. Now I just click Render, and the image sequence is rendering out. Once it's done, go up to the File menu, select Import, File, and select the first image of the image sequence. Right-click on the image sequence, select Interpret Footage, and enter 60 frames per second. Because remember, I captured this at 60 frames per second, the composition was at 60, I exported it at 60, now I have to make sure that that image sequence is interpreted as 60. Click on the image sequence, and drag it down to the new composition icon, and that will automatically put that image sequence in a new composition for you. This is the composition we're going to use to track camera. Right click on that layer and select Track Camera. In the Effects window, the 3D camera tracker appears. Under the Advanced tab, here I select Typical. It's optional if you want to select Detailed Analysis. Here I'm not going to select it because I want it to track a little faster. But if you have a problem tracking, you can use Detailed Analysis. Click the Analyze button, and Adobe After Effects will start to analyze the scene. When the analysis is finished, you'll see all these little dots around the room, and those are the track points. Alright, this looks like a good track, so what I want to do now is create a camera, and the way I'm going to do that is I want to track objects to this table in the middle of the room. I'm just looking for like a flat region on the table. Alright, once I find that region, I right click on it and select Create Null and Camera. And down here in the timeline you'll see a camera and a null object have been created. I just expand the null object to the end of the timeline. If I select the null object, you can see it tracks to the scene perfectly. I'm going to add some text. Basically all I do is I select the text tool up at the top. Here I type in Psynaps. So here I increase the text size. Now, in order to get it to track with a 3D camera, I have to turn it into a 3D object. I click on the 3D object box to turn it into a 3D object. Now sometimes when you do that, it'll get smaller or it kind of changes positions. That's okay, we're gonna fix that. If it gets really small like this, just increase the font size or scale it up. Here I just increase the font size. The trick to getting this text to track is to copy the position of the null and paste that position onto the object. Select the null object and press P on the keyboard and the position tab comes up. Select that position and copy it. Now select the text, press P, select the position and press paste. So basically all I did was I copied the position of the null object and I pasted it to the position of the text. You can see the text is now tracked onto the null object in the middle of the table. That's what I want, but it's still kind of crooked. So to fix that, I can adjust the rotation. Select the text layer and press R. Now you can change the X, Y, and Z rotation to make it match the rest of the room. Now if you click on the X, Y, and Z arrows, the green, red, and blue arrows, you can drag the text left, right, up, down, forward, backward. Alright, that's pretty much it. Using this method, you have the power to track anything to your scene. But before we end, let's show a few more details. Now I want to track the interface. I created this futuristic HUD and I turned it into an image sequence for this example. And here I drag the image sequence down into the timeline and I want to track it to my scene, just like I did in the Swifty video. So the first thing to do is turn it into a 3D object by clicking that 3D object box. Copy the position of the null object to the position of the futuristic HUD object. And there you go. Now the futuristic HUD is tracked to the 3D scene. That's it for creating a 3D scene and tracking objects to it. The shot of the warrior is from Bajheera. The shot of the dinosaur is from Hobbs. I put some futuristic 3D layers on top of them just to try to make it look like a futuristic HUD. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something from it, please like it, favorite it, and you can support this channel by liking, favoriting, and subscribing. If you have any questions about this, then let me know in the comments. Good luck and have fun.